Hello everybody, I am Tiffany and today I am bringing you another book and movie review combined. The book I am reviewing today is part of a series of books along with the movies. The movies did finish. There is the same amount of movies as there are books, so that's pretty cool. I will say that I saw the first two movies before I started reading the series. Once I saw the movies, I fell in love with them and I really wanted to jump on the series. The book I am reviewing today and I'm talking about is The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I have also read the second book and I rewatched both the first and second movie, but the second book and the second movie are going to be in a separate video, of course. And this shirt, by the way, has nothing to do with Maze Runner whatsoever. I just really like it because it's really, really comfy. And look at the sleeves! Look at the sleeves! They're cool. I was so excited to read the series because of how popular it was. Everybody really loved it. And like I said, I loved the first movie. I really enjoyed it. Dylan O'Brien did such a fantastic job. Everybody loves Dylan O'Brien. I'm just acknowledging once again, he is great. And I just had a lot of fun with the movies. So I figured the book I would enjoy just as much. I will say though, the book I read right before it was The Book Thief. And if you've read The Book Thief, oh my gosh, that is a whirlwind of emotions. And Maze Runner has a completely different writing style and feel to it. And I think I got thrown. The writing is choppier, but I think it's meant to be that way. And I will admit, it took me a really long time to get through this book and the second book. I do think that did hinder me on some level, and that wasn't good planning on my part. I think I just bought The Book Thief way before I bought Maze Runner, and then it just happened to coincide that they were right after one another. Besides that, maybe throwing me off some. Overall, Maze Runner, I wasn't as impressed as I would have liked to be for this book. It was interesting going back and rewatching the first movie though after reading the book and seeing the differences, because by gosh, there are a lot. Still the same structure, but a lot of changes. And it ended up being one of those things for me where there were some elements I liked in the book better than the movie and vice versa. There were some elements in the movie I actually really wish they had in the book. For those of you who want statistics though, this book got a 4.02 out of 5 stars, which is pretty good on Goodreads. I will say that I actually graded it lower. I gave it 3.5 really was what I was aiming for, but you can't really do 3.5 stars on Goodreads. It just didn't hit me the right way completely. There were certain characters I loved, but other characters just bugged me a lot. And then the movie rating got a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb, which isn't too bad. It's about right, I believe. It's a fun movie. I'm not saying it's groundbreaking, mind-blowing, but it's fun. I almost like the movie a little bit better, and I may get scorned for that nonstop, and you have every right to. I want you guys to tell me if it's one of those situations where if you read the book first, that you really, really like the book, and then the movie's disappointing, versus if you see the movie first, you'll really like the movie, but then the book won't really live up as much. I just want your opinion. I just don't think I really liked the writing style, and it could be again because I read The Book Thief right before this, but it just wasn't impactful enough for me. I didn't really like the main character that much. I felt like he was too emotional and too back and forth on stuff. Not indecisive. He would jump from one emotion to another very quickly. For those of you who want to know the synopsis, this follows a boy named Thomas who ends up waking up in an area called the Glade. His memory is completely wiped, and he ends up finding that there are other boys there, and they are tasked to try and solve this giant maze, and that's their way out, but they don't know how in the world to figure it out. And that's basically what the book is about, is them trying to figure out this maze and get out of there. Now, I know that I'm probably more in the unpopular opinion of this book, but a lot of people do really like this book. And I can see why. All of it put together just didn't work right for me. I would still say go out and read it yourself and go watch the movie. Like I said, I really enjoyed the movie. I still say go out and give this a shot yourself. People really, really love this book. This is a really popular series. It's 3 books for the original trilogy, and then there's 2 prequels, I believe. I do have those as well, so I will read those eventually, but I need a little break from Maze Runner. But that's really all I have for the non-spoilery section, because I'm going to really go into the details now, the differences between the movie and the book, and what I liked, what I didn't like. So if you haven't read this, go read it yourself and form your own opinion of it, and then come back here and we can discuss all the stuff you liked, you didn't like, all of that together. Goodbye, non-spoiler people. Goodbye. So like I said before, I didn't really love the writing style. It was pretty choppy. I just didn't like how it meshed, in all honesty. And the hardest part was that Thomas, who I really liked in the movie, because Dylan O'Brien makes every character lovable, I did not like Thomas in the book. He was too flip-floppy on his emotions, and I would just be so confused. It would say one minute, I was so angry, I just wanted to punch him in the face right there. Then the next minute it's saying, I just wanted to stand up and applaud him and thank him for defending me. And I'm sitting reading there being like, wait, I thought you were super angry and wanted to punch him in the face 2 seconds ago, but now you're okay because he said something. It was just too quick of a jump. That was the hardest part of this book, is the main characters I don't like. I didn't like Thomas. I don't like Teresa. I didn't really like Teresa in the film either. I felt she was very cold. The actress did a great job. I'm not saying she did a bad job, because Teresa in the book for me was very cold too. So I think she did a great job impersonating Teresa. I just personally don't like the character Teresa. I don't like that Thomas is trying to start a romance with her. It just feels weird. The only characters I liked were Newt and Minho. I liked Minho a lot. Minho was my favorite in the book, and that's really cool because in the movie, Newt was my favorite, but in the book, Minho was. I was really shocked though to see the differences that happened between the movie and the book. And like I said, there was some stuff that I really liked that the book did, and there was some stuff that I really liked that the movie did, and wish they had just meshed, because if they had just meshed, it would have been this perfect book. The first big difference that I liked that they did in the movie was Gally. Gally's character in the book was a pain in the butt. A major one. He was just a jerk throughout the entire thing. There was no sympathy for him. There was no redeeming quality about him. He was the pure straight out villain in the book. And since I had seen the movie before, it had been a long while before I had read this book, but I remembered kind of liking Gally, and I had really liked the actor who played him, and I couldn't figure out why, because in this book he was so awful. He went crazy. He still ends up killing Chuck, but he went absolutely bonkers. And for me personally, I like my villains to be complex. So the fact that he was so blatantly the villain in this book made it annoying. I get you were supposed to be annoyed by him, but it just was too much for me. And then I watched the movie and I remembered exactly why I kind of liked Gally in the movie. Is because the movie for me did Gally right. He's still the person that you're in opposition against, but you get where he's coming from. The whole point in Gally's character in the book too was the fact that he doesn't want to leave the Glade. He knows something about the outside world in the book and he doesn't want to go back. That's his driving motive in this book. But he does it so badly and goes so crazy in the book that it's just unlikable and you don't really get it. Where in the movie you understand it. The movie did take out the fact that Gally got stung before Thomas even arrived and remembered Thomas and kind of knew about the outside world. But they still got the motivation down, which is the fact that he is too scared to leave the Glade. And even though you don't like Gally, you sympathize with him. And on top of that, he's not just a straight up jerk to Thomas. Granted, again, they do take out the fact that in the book, Gally already recognizes Thomas from him being stung in the past by the Grievers. But I did like the element that you saw this weird camaraderie with them, not fully, but they're all in this together. There's this moment in the movie where Gally and Thomas fight. It's not out of anger, they're doing it for fun. At the very end of it, even though Gally kicks his butt, he helps Thomas back up and says, "Not bad, Greenie." And even though they're not friends like that, it's an acknowledgement of we're all in the same situation. We're all trying to cope with it and make it the best that we can. So at the end of the movie, when they're all about to go into the maze and he asks Gally to come with them, it's emotional. And when he follows them later and gets stung and goes crazy, it's more impactful. Even though he ends up killing Chuck and you still hate him for it, you feel for him more because he tried to follow them. He tried to follow them after he had already said no. The book, you don't feel any sympathy towards Gally. He ends up getting taken by one of the Grievers, and then that's pretty much it. You don't see him again until he ends up killing Chuck. I liked the movie version better. I like being able to have sympathy for the villain. Those are the best villains to me. You understand them in a weird way. Those are the scariest villains, and those are the most interesting villains to watch. I will say though, for the book, I love two things about the book that they did not have in the movie whatsoever. One is how complicated the maze actually is. They completely dumbed it down in the movie. I'm sorry. The book, it was super intricate, super detailed on how in the world they had to figure this out. And that was one of the most intriguing parts and kept me going through that book, was it wasn't as simple as the movie made it. In the book, you have this whole extensive part at the end where they're staring at the prototype of the maze that they've built, and you have the different patterns in there of how they open and close, but it forms a code, and it's a complicated way to find the code, but once you crack it, it's very very refreshing and satisfying because of the fact of how complicated it was to figure that out. Even though they had to wait for Teresa and Thomas to come along, I liked how complex it was. The movie, they didn't do any of that. They have Thomas kill a griever, which does not happen in the books, by the way. Not that I remember. I know he saves Albie, but he doesn't kill the griever. It jumps off that cliff and disappears, if I remember correctly. That weird mysterious cliff that they also don't have in the movie. But in the movie, they just have it where Thomas kills a griever. They grab this tracking thing that says section 7, and so they go to section 7 and then they find the griever hole, and that's how they get out. And I just didn't like that after rewatching it. After reading the book, I thought all the complexity about the maze just disappeared. They could have killed a griever in any section. That's what it feels like. And on top of that, in the movie, they only had one entrance, from what I saw. In the book, it surrounds the whole area, which makes it even scarier at the end when all the grievers are starting to come. You don't know which door is going to be open. The second thing that I liked in the book is the ending when it comes to the grievers attacking. Now, don't get me wrong. The movie had a great heart-pounding scene that made you feel that emotional punch, especially with Albie. The way the grievers attack in the book is scarier to me. It's not this giant slaughter all at once. A bunch of grievers come, they destroy, but they only take one glader a night. And it's scary because you're seeing your numbers dwindle and you're trying to figure out how in the world to get out. And on top of that, the doors stay open and it takes place over a decent period of time, at least a couple days. I don't remember exactly. But that element I liked so much. It was intriguing. It put you on edge because you didn't know who in the world it was going to get next. The movie didn't do that. They had this giant, pretty awesome scene where the grievers do attack. You have Gally and his goons hiding in the slammer. You have people hiding in the homestead. It's crazy and it's mass chaos, and it does serve its purpose in the movie. And it does a really great emotional punch with Albie getting taken at the end, which I believe happens in the book too, but not yet. It happens later on down the line. And I will say I liked it, but I did like the anticipation and the adrenaline that the book gives with it, because you don't know when they're coming, you don't know who they're going to take, you don't know if you're next, and that's scary. And now let's get on to Albie. Albie's character is so interesting because for me, you should combine both Albie's character in the book and the movie. That's like a perfect medium. I liked him in the movie more than I did in the book again. In the book, he just makes really dumb choices and is very stern on stuff to the point where it gets annoying. Once he gets stung, he just changes a lot. And that happens in the movie too, but you still see him feeling sympathy in a way for Thomas. In the book, you don't really see that. He's one of those people that wants to stay in the glade at the end of the day because of everything he knows from being stung. He ends up burning the map room, and he ends up going with them, and that's when he finally sacrifices himself because he doesn't really want to leave though. Where in the movie, it felt a lot more emotional just because of the fact that he did it to save Chuck at the homestead. He didn't make it to the maze, and I think I like that version a little bit better, but I do like some of the hardness and toughness that Albie had in the book. Not as much, but I just wish they combined it a little bit more. The only other big difference that I didn't like necessarily was the fact that Thomas killed a griever in the movie. I don't like that. I know that I like Thomas better in the movie than I do in the book, but I still don't love Thomas, and I don't like it when they have characters do certain things that they didn't do. It's happened in movies where they change one action from one character and put it towards the lead. But for me, I always think on the lines of, if this side character is the one actually doing it, I want to see the side character doing it in the movie or TV show, or however you adapt it. I don't want to see the main character doing it because they didn't do it. It makes it feel like they're boasting up the main character when they don't need to. If you write a main character well enough, they don't need that extra stuff. You don't need them doing other stuff that characters did in the books. Just have the characters do what they were originally doing. No one killed a griever in The Maze Runner, if I remember correctly, in the book, but I hate that they had that happen with Thomas. Thomas is special, but it's very different in the book. Everybody is suspicious of him. The movie, they are a lot more accepting of him, but I like that there's this suspicion in the book. It makes it more intriguing overall, versus in the movie having Thomas be just kind of this hero. And that's what I felt that moment was. He didn't need to kill a griever. In my opinion, it should feel natural. That moment felt very cheesy after watching it again. And they just changed overall how the griever hole worked. They jump off this cliff, I believe, in the book, and they just kind of disappear. And they end up having to test for a while exactly where that point is, so that way when they go in and battle, they are able to jump across it. So overall, the book had a lot more complexity to it when it comes to the maze itself. It truly feels like they're being tested in that regard. The movie made the characters overall more likable for me, but dumbed down some of the complexity, which that I did not like. But I did love how they developed some of the characters. So that's what I mean by I wish they just had combined it all, in all honesty. If they had combined that complexity with the character development of the movie, it would have been just fantastic. that is really all I have to say about this book. I have rambled on way too long on this. If you have any other book or movie recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. I always write your suggestions down and make sure to take note of them and get them. If you want any updates on anything, you can go to my blog. Here's the link right here. It's beautiful. It just gives you updates on the new videos I post, tells you a little bit about my acting life because I am an actress as well. It just keeps you updated. If I know for sure there's not going to be a video up on a week for whatever particular reason, I will let you know. Thank you so much for joining me. Have an awesome day, evening, afternoon, whatever time of the day you're watching this, and don't forget to be awesome. Goodbye!